Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Can you hear us now?
TSD, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
I know.
Of course.
We'll get started whenever you get unpacked. All right. All right, everyone, welcome to this Personnel Administration Committee. Today is Tuesday, April the 4th, 2023 at noon. There's a lot of us here in the council room here, but if you're joining us on Zoom, welcome as well. You can find today's agenda at co.monroe.in.us on the calendar. And to get things started off, Ms. Shell, would you call the roll?
Councilor Iverson,
Here.
Councilor McKeon,
Here.
Councilor Paul, not present.
All right. So we do have a quorum. So let's go to the first item on the agenda. The clerk is here, Nicole Brown, and the agenda states that we have an update from you regarding upcoming request for a department review. What's this all about?
Thank you. Good afternoon, esteemed members of the PAC committee. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. This is mostly a heads up as I look to upgrade positions within my office. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I've come here before, I've sent my team here before, and tried to explain what's going on in my office, particularly as it compares to what goes on with court reporters and colleagues that work directly with my colleagues. And so I've been to previous incarnations of PAC. I've attempted to explain the critical issues that are faced by my office, and I have let this process continue. I'm trying again. I'm appealing to your empathy. I'm appealing to your willingness to listen, and I am hopeful for an epiphanous moment regarding those upgrades that I plan to see for my office. The last words that Captain Sully said before guiding a plane full of passengers and crew were brace for impact. I'm here to encourage you to brace for the impact with respect to clerks and courts. There's a liability that you're exposed to, and this is not a drill. I'm here because inaction or wrong actions can reverberate at the appellate level, state and federal. And I have a continued inability to recruit and retain the kind of necessary talent to work directly with this. And inaction, no action or inaction is not going to be a defense call into court at the appellate level. A previous incarnation of the council appealed to my predecessor's ability to be a team player. They convinced her to go against the best interests of the office that she ran for and risk clerk's employees to help balance the Monroe County's budget at that time, proposing that she would be welcome to come back over time and request positions, knowing full well there was no intention of giving her positions that she relocated. And in short, this newly elected official is surreptitiously convinced to play fair for the good of the whole when the other team is playing by different sides. In some capacity, I have worked in Monroe County. This has afforded me the opportunity to see a few things from the sidelines and up close and personal, including disseminating $17,000 per employee to 3 Monroe County government employees that were split up into down payments on the car. Paraphrase. This is reflected 23% increase in salary. We have someone in this building who is not an elected official making at least $80,600 per year, which is more than most elected officials, including advocating for more money for me. I'm just saying there appears to be a significant amount of money to disseminate. My deputy clerks have a starting salary of $34,544. Their court reporter counterparts start at $37,529. I have relayed every year at budget time my deputy clerk's responsibility parallel to their court reporter counterparts. And in addition, my deputy clerks work directly with the public because we're the first point of access if you wish to access. I told you the ways in which the clerk's office has changed. In my office, between a reduction in manpower from my predecessor and a salary that is laughable at best when I am trying to recruit and retain talent. Because of this algorithm, my office continues to be forced to do more with less in every way imaginable. They don't even have a decent office environment because we took the capital lines from office budgets. And then when we need things, we're asked first to look through the cast off from other offices, and we have to borrow new furniture. Because of plans to move forward with the new jail in the next whatever amount of time that is, as few resources as possible seem to be put into the existing structure where my office is housed. And I'm happy to give examples of that. Except for the fact that we're talking about local government money, or corporate money. Monroe County government is the local equivalent of the national issue when it comes to the disparity between Wall Street and Main Street. I'm here because kicking the can down the road has become so commonplace that my office has run out of room. It has been incredibly disheartening to watch my colleague within the Justice Building have to beg to get the needs of his office met, and shameful that it takes the television spotlight before issues are taken seriously. There are 92 counties. As Vice President of the Clerks Association, I feel confident in saying that clerks are not afraid to showcase our issues as well. But my preference would be to try one more time with PAC to appeal to your better angel, common sense, and decency for the value and the work that clerks bring to the table. With other offices poaching talented employees for their own offices, we have not only become headhunters for Monroe County government, but my office is the canary in the coal mine, proceed at your own pace. To put it more plainly, you cannot operate courts without and you cannot oversee elections without it. Try to mete out justice for elections that have integrity without my office. As A.N. Richards once noted, after all, Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did. She just did it backwards and in high heat. My office is Ginger Rogers in this equation, and I am just bringing to your attention that my office. Thank you.
As this item appears on the agenda, we have received that update. Ms. Shell, is there any other action that Pat needs to take today on this item?
No, there's no action needed, but I would like to add to this conversation that during the budget sessions, that Ms. Brown did bring, her concerns, and that during that time, council asked her to identify certain jobs that needed to have a review. And I did reach out to them several times, even after January, and so this is when we started it. During that budget process, there was also a mention for her to add an additional position, as well as job description for a floating part-time. And we haven't seen that, since that. So those requests were heard, and so at that time, but we have not identified which position that she wants to compare with regard to the corporate. So I think that's what we initially, and I say we loosely, the council wanted to see during the budget sessions. I want to bring that back to you.
And page 3 of the packet does contain the different positions that are within that department. I see.
Yes, I think it is a job, org chart, and this is the org chart that identifies every job description that was approved by council, and then there's numbers next to the title saying how many people are in those positions. If there's not a number, that means it's just one person for that position.
And may I add, just, and this, that was a very good time we have been, I have been come here, my staff has come here, we talked about it, and, when my office watches budget hearings, looking to see if they're gonna get a cost of living adjustment, et cetera. I honestly have had no faith that this is gonna be different this time. What brings me here this time is wanting to look you in the eye, because I have to go back and those people have seen significant increases in everywhere but my office. And so I have tried to explain, I was deflated. I did not feel that coming here would be productive. I never wanted to waste anybody's time, most of all, I don't imagine election season. I'm a little busy, but I did take the time to come over because I am trying to to get you to understand the position. Come visit anytime you want. Look at other offices where they at least have some future. Their ceiling tiles have been replaced. Everything that happens in the jail that goes down to the sheriff also happens in mine. And never once anybody else paint my house, get them better, change the ceiling. But I can come in here and visit you within years and in the office. And to break from my staff, I feel something for me. But to see people have to get second jobs and everything, and then not even, they have the best. And so to be trying like this, find something in there. So that's where I am. I just wanted to come and have a honest conversation. I'll be back. Follow the process.
I see that staff has their hands up, but I want to kick it over to PAC members to see if they have any thoughts or questions. And for the record, Councilmember Hawk is joining us on Zoom now.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention.
And I do have a question. So we have 92 counties. See nearly good portion of these
Yes.
Is the way that we classify here in the county different than all the other institutions? Say institution.
Staff and public relations is similar to the information. Sorry, this conversation over, so I'm trying to roll it in my head.
They use the comment, LTC, they did move from a numbering system to an alphabetical system. Ours, because we had just in at that time was considered a comment one, they eliminated that. So, so, comment, comment now, but as for the county they work with, they also. Now, they may have a, but they still use the, and the pay, structure. We have, they utilize space. We go before. We've added 8 in steps within our grid.
So I guess the real question is, do all of the other counties have basically structural imbalance?
Well, yes, but I happened to speak with the Marion County clerk last week. Told her I was coming. Told her what this. They do not. This does not happen in Marion County. If they're using a mathematical, is never going to advance. We're always, which means the courts are always going to let them train. I can remember first came to the post office and the head of the council. My predecessor told me the post office has become nothing but a Walmart reading room. They let me train them and that it takes to train, and you can sit on the wheels for a couple of years. Employees, they don't have to leave them.
Councilmember Hawk, do you have any questions? Or comments? Seeing none at this moment,
Can you hear me now?
go, yes, we can.
There's something very strange going on with Zoom. It keeps cutting out. I'm trying to follow the closed captioning. It's cutting out. So I couldn't hear enough to give a reasonable question. Sorry.
Okay, all right. We'll try and speak clearly so that closed captioning picks us up.
I can hear you clearly and I could hear Jeff better, but the clerk, I could not, I mean, it was really cutting out.
Okay,
Couldn't hear what she was saying. Anyway,
All right.
I apologize. My first man's still not here, so I don't know what's going on.
all right. Are there further staff or Pat comments on this agenda item?
Well, I guess I'm still a little bit confused as to what the ask is, other than just to, I mean, we can't just arbitrarily say, you know, these people who are comma twos are really comma threes or whatever. But it sounds like you're looking for some kind of review of some kind.
Yes,
Which would be what? Is it changing the position description to give them more responsibilities?
yes.
And, okay.
But are you talking the entire department, or are we talking a select few? Because if doing the entire department is going to be costly.
It is. It
So
is.
that's,
I am going to take steps going forward that ultimately end up in every position being looked at, which is what my chief deputy came to you for, and what I understood initiated a whole review of everybody. every office. I guess I am letting you know that I will be back regarding the upgrading of positions. Right now, the salaries are laughable. I can't, people haven't even stayed for the interview once they realize what the salary is in my office. And what I am saying is that the liability is if if all I have are entry-level people, because all my seasoned people who speak several languages, et cetera, are being poached, eventually there's gonna be an error made that is gonna have us out here at the appellate level liable. The county is going to be liable. I need to get my office to a place where I can retain quality employees. And I've said this, and I've tried, I have sent people here to try. And so I am not quite sure how the picture is going to look at the end, but I'm letting you know that I'm gonna paint that picture for you and continue to paint it for you.
Yeah, county legal.
I guess I would I think it might be important for PAC members to consider or inquire as to whether there's been a change in regards to reclassification. And where I'm going with this is, we just updated job descriptions with WIS. In that process, department heads engaged. They met with WIS, they went through their job descriptions, a job description was finalized, a draft was sent to the elected official for sign off. We're not even 2 years out of that process. So was there something that happened during the WIS process that led us to need, that it didn't get done then?
Yes. I am not WIS. And yes, I did sign off on the descriptions that were turned over to WIS. Somehow in WIS's infinite wisdom, when the report came back, it determined, for example, that Terry and I might do the exact same job, but Terry only merits a 1% increase, where I might have gotten $2. So two people could be sitting next to each other and not, and one gets this incredible increase and one doesn't, and then it happens that the one who doesn't get it is the hardest working person, willing to do anything, step up and do anything. I spoke to my liaison at the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, this couldn't be worse. I'd rather nothing have happened than 1 cent. What do you say to somebody? You're only worth 1 cent more. And what I would be told was, we don't have to go with WIS. And I even said, perhaps at least when it comes to the clerk's office, maybe a different independent company could evaluate. And I didn't hear anything from that. And here's where we are before I go, because I've taken up enough of your time. Mr. Tron hasn't. I can see how, from a fiscal perspective, you don't want to look at my office because, there's about 40 people working in my office, and that is a heavy lift financially. But I know my predecessor came to you. I've come to you. I've tried to do this the way that WIS asked for you to do it, and nothing's changing. This is not the clerk's office that your grandma could have graduated from high school 1 week and gotten a full-time job the next week. It's not. It's changed. It's not going to get easier. The constraints upon all 92 clerks are more, and what they have to ask of their staff is more. And I'm just appealing to you to listen, but I'll keep saying it publicly if you're not, and we move forward from here.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I guess there are sort of two different issues here. One is, are the positions in the clerk's office properly classified? And then are those classifications properly compensated? It's not, when WIS did a study, they did not look at this person and say this person is worth some, a clerk's Comet B is worth more than, or should be paid more than, or as much as a Comet C in another department or whatever. They looked at everybody who is Comet B and what should Comet Bs be compensated as, and everybody who's Comet C, what should Comet Cs be compensated as? So again, if if they are improperly classified based on their duties, then it does seem that they need to be reclassified. If the issue is simply the pay rate, then we would be increasing all of the Comet Bs and all of the Comet Cs across the entire county. I'm sympathetic with the issue. I mean, I get if there's a pipeline that's specifically going from one department to another, that's a problem. And that's something that we need to fix. Do we have any data on specifically on deputy clerks moving to the court reporters?
We've had about 5 this year so far.
So 5 this year
I lost my entire criminal division
The whole division.
from that
and
moving
Upstairs.
specifically to the.
To the
court
courts.
reporter. I mean,
And I was very proud of the fact that I had about 4 people who speak Spanish for my clients, who again, we deal with them first before they ever make it to the court. I had 4 people who spoke Spanish. I have 1 person who speaks Mandarin. They're gone. And not only are they gone, but they went so fast that when I had somebody recently who called in and they spoke Spanish and the person on the phone didn't understand them, I called up and I just said, hey, I know you guys are busy upstairs. Is there any chance? I just needed to know. Do you know you're calling the clerk's office? What do you need? How can we help you? You know, and buy me some time to get someone in there who spoke Spanish. I got a very nasty gram. Please don't ever call here and ask to use those people. I hired those people. I'm the reason you have those people. And they can't use them in court. You have to have the certified interpreter, but at least to let somebody know you've called the right place. We want to help you. Please bear with us while we get somebody that can stay with you. I can't keep those people because everything comes down to money. And I don't want to make this about money, but I hear those of you who are running for office talk about affordable housing. Look at the salaries that my people are making. They have families, and by the time they go home, they have to have a second job, which means they're not there for their kids at night, which means they're not there for their kids on the weekend, because we can give some people 23% raises. I'm lucky if mine get 4 or 5%. It tends to amount to a tank of gas, and the price of gas is going up.
so it looked like he had a.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I could provide that data. I think the majority has been the courts, but it's been in some other departments as well as people leaving Monroe County in general.
So I mean, we have a problem to solve. It's one thing.
I appreciate you just acknowledging that. We have a problem that needs to be solved.
And it seems to me that we have enough to work on. So this is the start of a conversation. Thank you for bringing this information to us. It sounds like we've got multiple people that recognize this as an issue and willing to work on it. So Ms. Shell, do you have a final comment?
Yes, if, it sounds like we're gonna be redoing the whole, the department and looking at it, because all of her, the majority of her people are Comet Bs. And so, we can start with, it's, just filling out, the WIS wants to have I can't remember, a review form. It's a review form. And so we can start that process, starting with the review forms and updating duties into each of those job descriptions. And so that will be I want to say a painful process, because we'll have to go through each one of them. But then, we'll just work together and work on those and get those together. And then and that's what I need to know. Are we going to try and bring this all back as a lump, or should we divide them up into sections? How do we want to tackle this project?
It sounds to me that is dependent on the data that E can bring forward.
Okay.
So that's my impression. Madam Clerk, what are your thoughts or feelings?
I guess as I hear about preparing to go to WIS again, I have concern. I know the county they're on the WIS fan bus, and if WIS has been great for you, that's wonderful. I'm nervous that there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I don't mind to do that work, particularly if on the back end, I can look at employee in the eye and say, thank you, for sticking with me through this. But if it's math, and that's what I'm afraid it is, math never changes. 2 + 2 is always gonna equal 4. 4 is always gonna be less than 5 go ahead.
Well, I guess my question is, so what are the court reporters? What's their classification?
C's
So there's
They're
those kind of
associate.
Cs. So I mean.
and our people are B's.
We have, associate court reporters are a C,
And officials
and
are,
the official court
Bs.
reporters are a D.
so
That's what we max out is at a
but
D.
so the main differences between the deputy clerks were Bs and the court, associate court reporters are Cs. I mean, it seems like that. If you lay them out side by side, look at the duties, are there duties that aren't being accounted for in the clerk's position descriptions? What do the court reporters do that gives them a C and not a B?
And
the
that's
clerk
where we would
doesn't?
have to ask,
And-
the WIS.
and
That
that's-
seems like
That's the work.
question, yeah.
Yeah, those are the questions that we need answers.
And figure
Right,
out if there's
and-
some changes you can make to their duties that would give them what they
But-
need to become Cs.
But
or
we don't want to just
yeah,
give them
Cs.
duties to pad a level.
Well, yeah, it has
Right.
to be
It has to be-
necessary for the
yeah,
department, but
yeah.
it sounds like she's got enough work
Right,
to be
right.
done.
Councilmember Hawk, we need to move on here. What
Right,
final
I-
comments do you have?
I wanted to just comment, because after I made comment before, it wasn't coming through. Somebody fixed it, because now I can hear what's being said. It seems to me that the difference in the duties between the two classifications, that's something we could look at without the clerk having to go through all these, putting this together. Could we not take a
It looks
quick
like
look?
Kim's not in red.
Yeah, I can pull job descriptions and get a more narrow scope from Ms. Brown here and figure out which ones, and then we can compare duties and bring that back, and then we can, maybe that might give us a better idea on how to move forward, so.
I
It just
think,
is concerning to me that perhaps we're leaving out something that should be very obvious. If they're leaving to another department to make a lot more money, well, there's always going to be departments that pay more if they have the skills to move up. But those are things that we can look at, and I certainly understand the clerk's concerns.
Thank you.
That
Madam
will
Clerk.
also be the assessor, let's look at who else
Yeah.
is in that same classification.
But it just sounds like if there's a steady pipeline going from one position to another. We
Yeah.
just need to lay those two position descriptions side by side and see what's going on.
Right.
all right, I want to give Madam Clerk the final word. Any parting comments?
I just want to thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it. I don't know where this is gonna go. I came because I'm still hopeful. But I just appreciate you making the time.
All right, we heard you. So thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item number 3. We are graced with the presence of Mr. Tron Enright Randolph from the Surveyor's Office and Mr. John Bettine, and we're talking about the request of a creation of a new position and a review of a current position. Mr. Enright Randolph, what's going on here?
Can we, get the PowerPoint?
Yeah,
Take you
and
this is a mouse for it too.
just let us get logistics set up just quickly. We had a full room, so.
Yeah.
Fine.
Do you want to change seats?
Yeah, is that cool? That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
I can.
I was gonna be looking-
I'm all.
Okay, can you
move on with stuff.
can you see which one it is?
Yeah, GIS. Can I see?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there you go.
And,
Pieces material.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, for allowing the greatest, shifting of chairs.
Yeah, this is public government at work, and I hope I didn't butcher your last name too much.
It's Baton.
My sincerest apologies.
It's Everson.
Iverson.
I'm joking. All right.
Yeah, whatever you're requesting has just got denied, so. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm doing the requesting, but he's support, and thanks, and luckily enough.
County legal's looking at me like, you can't say that.
So luckily enough, I put my words in writing because I'm very passionate about public service, and I think this is going to lead to more outward public service, but also a higher level of service internally too. So I'll just read my 4 bullet points. And hello and good morning. I'm extremely excited to be here today to discuss the creation of a GIS technician. And the reclassification / review of our GIS coordinator as outlined in the red line job description submitted to assist with our current and growing GIS needs. I've been with the county for over 18 years. Yes, over 18 years. I'm only 40, so it's almost half my life. When I first started, GIS was not a household name. No one really knew what GIS was. I think GPS just started to become something people like mounted on their dashboard in their car. Over the years, I've assisted many offices with and departments with integrating GIS or map making to help with their projects and or meet their operational goals. GIS is used broadly across the county offices and department, and the expectations of the public are ever growing. But the GIS division has remained the same, a team of one. We need to empower our county by providing the proper personnel and geospatial tools so we don't fall behind. We've done a lot of work to do some catch up, and if we don't support the GIS division as it needs to be supported, we risk the chance of falling behind again. And that's not good because, like I said, it's a household term now and people become reliant on it. So creating this GIS technician position is the first step in that direction. Our office has put some slides together, and Dr. John Baden would like to cover those for you. And John,
Sure.
if
Yeah.
you'd like to take it away.
Well, thanks, everybody. I'm John Baton. I'm the GIS coordinator from Monroe County. I started here in August of this past year. I gotta say, I love my job. It's like it's total difference than what I was doing in the past. I call myself a recovering academic. I was teaching at IU for a long time and teaching GIS at IU. What I like about this position is I work with community members and I also work for community members. And what I've noticed in my role as GIS coordinator, see if these lights work, there we go, is that as I've come on here, I've noticed that we've had a rapid kind of expansion of our GIS usage across the county. And this is new departments coming on, new users coming on as well. And as each new department comes on and as each new user comes on, there's more kind of technical demand, right? As well as educational demand, teaching people new software and things like that. I've also seen our GIS mature. Not only are we using software that's available on a desktop level, we actually have our own servers now, which really kind of empowers us to host our own data, to provide different types of services to the public as well. With this kind of expansion of county usage and this maturation of GIS as a whole, what we had is an increase in demand for our data, right? That's what happens when you have an expansion, you get more data, right? As there's more data, you get more demands for that data. And this data comes from both the public as well as from county government, right? And so part of my job is supplying data back to users. This could be really simple data requests, like I want all of the parcel data from Monroe County, but it could be more kind of fine tooth than that. I want parcel data only for this type of zoning within this neighborhood block, right? A little bit more analysis. Or maps, general maps for county departments as well, right? All these kind of simple steps, right? It takes up a lot of time and a lot of resources. So we're seeing this expansion of county usage, but also an increase in demand across the board. We're also seeing that GIS, as we've kind of expanded as county government, we've seen GIS as a whole, as a system, really transform away from just being a computer application that's software on a desktop into it being a way that people can kind of experience this in an online interface that's really publicly accessible and easier to use, right? And what we've been doing at Monroe County is really deploying a lot of these online interfaces through things like visualization dashboards, where people are actually able to provide data to the public. And this really provides a lot of data transparency. So one of the big kind of initiatives that I've been focused on is trying to come up with dashboards for different departments that can really focus on transparency as a number one goal. This gives the public kind of an idea of what we're actually working with, but it also kind of calls down on some of the calls we might be getting in individual departments for really simple kind of data requests, right? And visualizations as well. I'll talk a little bit about that again here a little bit later with some of these visualizations. So all of these things that we've been seeing, this great growth, this great expansion and maturation of our GIS division has really increased our need for technical support. And what I mean by technical support is not just kind of helping people make maps, people are really savvy at Python scripting, really people that are really savvy in SQL managers and things like that. This is imperative because we have lots of data, right? And if you have lots of data, it's imperative to maintain that data quality, that data accuracy and things like that, right? And so a technician would really help support that maintenance of data accuracy and quality. This doesn't just include new data, this includes existing data. And I'll say that our existing geospatial data is pretty good, but it needs a lot of TLC. And I've been trying to work on that, but again, a division of one is hard to accomplish all of these things. Additionally, I mentioned already these online interfaces. Those online interfaces are great, but those online interfaces also require continual maintenance, right? Of data accuracy, of data deployment, as well as making sure that these links are broken, right? We have all of these wonderful interfaces, planning CDO map, for instance, right? But if somebody clicks on a parcel and it shows up, this isn't my parcel, right? This parcel report is going to my neighbor, right? This is stuff that generates not just kind of calls to county offices, but it also creates kind of a lack of maybe not a lack of trust, but it kind of, you're having these kind of data inaccuracies, which is not a good thing. So I'm all about trying to make sure that this stuff is maintained properly.
May I ask
Yeah.
you to pause for a second?
Yep.
Councilmember Hawk, can you hear everything all right? All right.
Absolutely. And I appreciate whoever fixed this, they did it right because it's
All right,
working.
thank you.
Cool. Yeah, and the other thing with a creation of a GIS technician would really provide us with what we call like continuity, right? And a retention of institutional knowledge. If Tron would leave, or if I would leave, there'd be a major gap in kind of how GIS functions across the county. And I kind of experienced that when I started here, because Tron has been here for a long time, so I have great continuity. But there was a GIS coordinator that left, right? And so it's me kind of reading their past notes to try to pick up, okay, exactly what were they doing? How were they doing it, right? And sometimes that stuff can be fairly ambiguous to try to figure out exactly what's going on. And that kind of preservation of institutional knowledge is really important as well. And then finally, as we expand as a county, we're having ongoing kind of software updates, software installations, technical problems. Where is my data? Which is a big question I get from county government. Because they haven't had that educational experience that they maybe should have with GIS. The only person who handles all of those requests is me. GIS division is the only one who handles any type of GIS technical support, right? And we get a lot of this all the time. And so a technician can be very, very helpful with that. As we're expanding as kind of a county with our GIS, we had Esri come in, and Esri is the parent company of ArcGIS, and ArcGIS is the software that we use as a company. So what Esri did, they came in here and they interviewed every department across the county and office to see what they're doing for GIS, to kind of make an assessment of our kind of current status of GIS in the county. And what they're doing is providing a roadmap. That roadmap is still kind of in fruition, but we were able to get an opinion from Esri to kind of get an idea of how they're gauging our current GIS right now. And what the response was for our GIS to continue to thrive, for our GIS to continue to be resilient, it would be imperative for us to hire one or more additional support members. And this would not only, build in that redundancy of data collection and institutional knowledge, but it would really allow the coordinator, myself, to kind of take on those leadership roles that I'm fairly good at, and to help departments and offices kind of really leverage the ability that GIS can help them with in the future. Now, anytime I'm looking at kind of these requests for things, I like to have a comparison, right? And so what I did was think of what's a comparable unit in terms of government and their GIS. And so what I brought up is the city of Bloomington. So currently the city of Bloomington, which is a comparable operational unit to the county, right, in terms of size and things like that. The city of Bloomington has 5 full-time GIS specialists, 2 of whom are technicians that work underneath the city's GIS manager. Now, the city's GIS manager is in a very similar position to the GIS coordinator. It's a very equitable position. That's their kind of status right now. The GIS city manager is also classified at a position that's comparable to the EFCA position, which is what we're seeking for my job revision as well. So just kind of a point of note here. As I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite things about this job is that I have built relationships with every office and every department in the county. I know people by name in each of these because I've helped them kind of facilitate things, right? And I think that's something that's fairly special about this division, right? I try to help departments and offices that are maybe doing disparate work understand how their work kind of articulates with one another, right? How their workflow impacts another department's workflow, or maybe how there's similarities between two that can be replicated, right? When we came up with this idea of trying to create this GIS tech position, we solicited support from different offices and departments, and this is our list of support. So all 6 elected officials, and then more than half dozen departments as well are in support of this creation. Now, I mentioned that I was going to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we're working on and the expansion. And so this is a slide that's showing kind of the current status of some of the GIS projects across Monroe County. I've color coded this, the blue being offices that were already kind of involved with GIS before I started, and then green being new departments that are coming on board. And I'm just going to talk briefly about a few of these projects. I did mention some data visualization before. GIS, I think most people think of mapping, but GIS is also data visualization, right? If it's tabular data, which is what GIS data is, you can map it, but you can also visualize it, right? And so one of the things I'm working on right now is deploying a dashboard for the assessor's office. The assessor is about to release their tax information, right? The assessor's office is going to get bogged down with tons of calls about, simple data requests, and this dashboard will be able to provide a lot of that for them, right? So it's gonna not be just a transparency window for the public, but it's also going to allow for kind of a reduction in those kind of basic telephone calls and things like that. I'm also working with the sheriff's office closely. This is a whole new GIS approach to the sheriff's office. The majority of the sheriff's office stuff is not spatial, it's data visualization. So I'm working on a dashboard for the jail right now to provide some transparency about the jail, as well as an internal dashboard. These don't all have to be external, these can be internal only for the sheriff's department at large. The health department just came on board, and we're developing a bunch of dashboards for them, as well as ways to track kind of water waste tracking across the county, as well as things like ways to streamline their violation process and complaint process. And then finally, I'm working with emergency management. I helped them deploy a project that was tracking sirens across Monroe County. And now most recently, I talked to EMA yesterday, and I'm helping them work on a updated map for the most recent natural disaster that we just faced, right? This tornado that came across last weekend, right? So tracking where that tornado went, and then also having a hazard tracker that you can go in and see where these different touchdowns hit and trying to get an idea about that. So kind of in sum, like we're in a good place kind of with GIS for the county, but we really need support, right? And a technician would really, really help us get there. This is a field that's growing, and having this additional support would be really behoove the county and behoove all county residents as well. So with that, I'll let Sean and I can take some questions.
Great.
Or whatever the best process is.
Just want to add
Sure.
one thing. We kind of discussed this a little bit, and some of our discussion today is, it took a lot of work for us to get here, and this is really the next logical approach. We've really built the foundation to sustain the growth that where we see it currently, but if we expand it, that growth is going to be way more rapid. And then also something that you mentioned is a GIS technician can help mitigate risk, and I think that's pretty crucial to bring in. And it would be not in the county's interest to put us back in a position where we'll start lagging behind, and that's to the detriment of the county and the GIS. So with this support, it allows us to continue to move forward, and all the time and effort that we put into this will continue to stay intact, and we can continue to advance what we're doing with departments. So I just wanted to kind of add that to it, that the worst thing we could do is not continue to help empower and support the GIS here, and then we end up back in the position we were several years ago.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to look to my PAC colleagues for the first round of questions. Mr. McKenna.
I guess this isn't so much a question, it's just a comment. And I have certainly, I've spoken, I am Tron's liaison, and we've certainly spoken about this. The increase in demand in GIS, and not only GIS, but IT in general, but GIS specifically in local government has just been, has been exponential. I mean, the growth in demand, the need, the number of projects that get requested it clearly justifies this kind of position. So I guess what I'll say is approving moving forward this position is pretty much a no-brainer for me. I'm gonna support it. Now, of course, when we get to budget time, understand that that's when we have to make trade-offs. We have to look both within the department, we have other positions like the professional surveyor. We're gonna have to look within department, and of course, we have to look across departments and available revenues to make sure that it makes sense. But I think just the idea, just from the risk reduction perspective, and we have basically one expert who knows county GIS, that really doesn't give us much sustainability and resilience, I guess. In case you find a better job and decide to move back to IU or something like that. So I'm definitely gonna support this. I will say on the specific classification, understand that when we do this, we send the job description to WIS, they analyze, and then they'll come up with a recommendation based on the factor evaluation system. We don't necessarily say this position, we want this position to be an EXEA, we want this position to be MAT, whatever. But that said, yeah, I'm certainly going to support moving forward on this request.
Ms. Hawk, do you have any questions or comments for our GIS folks?
Well, it certainly sounds as if they have a lot of opportunities to provide more service, not just to the county departments, but to the public at large. And so what the bottom line will be, and that's not something that the PAC will decide, is to put this position up against what other new positions that might be requested and see what is most needed throughout the county government and what can be afforded. And so I rely heavily on those who will be also looking at budgets to see how we can best serve the public with what we have to work with.
Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Before I entertain a motion, is there any insight from council administrator, human resources, or county legal?
No, I worked with Tron with regards to the paperwork needed because it is a new position. So we're following the practice that our maintenance plan laid out with all the questionnaires and the review. So I think we have everything in place. Just need an okay to send it on.
All right, this sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Is there a motion on this item?
Before you make one, I was just curious, do you think if we help provide the slides as we send that to WIS, that would help? Because we could submit that to you as well. Because it's kind of a complicated, very nuanced kind of.
But it's got to show up in the job description.
Yeah.
Make sure your job description
Yeah.
captures what you.
And we got we got that submitted. I think this just shows kind of the relationships with other departments a little more clear than, just saying, hey, we're assisting with county GIS users.
I can always send additional, but it's what you put in the questionnaire with regard to, and the job description
Okay.
is what is absolutely needed.
Then we'll send this to you and it could be harmful for WIS to have. so.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to jump in there, but I was just-
You do not need to apologize. We want to make sure all of our Ts are crossed and our Is are dotted. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move that we forward the position request to and description for the GIS technician to WIS for analysis and classification.
the job review. So,
And
Yeah,
I'll second.
We're moving them. My motion is to move forward for the material.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any public comments? Seeing none, Michelle, would you call the roll?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes,
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
motion passed unanimous.
All right, we are on to step number 2 of that process. Go forth and submit a
Awesome.
job description.
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
just-
guys.
I just want to make clear that we are also sending off the GIS coordinator with this. It's the GIS tech as a new position and then a review of the GIS.
Right, I
coordinator.
thought that's what.
Yeah, that-
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Writing it down, so.
And that's what was advertised in the agenda, and that's what I understood, Mr. McKim's motion to encapsulate.
And just, I guess, to let you know, as we send this to WISC and we get it back, we'll be going to council work session to have kind of more full-on discussion. So if there's any questions and we are not able to provide answers, we can then kind of regroup, get those answers for you, and then come back to a regular session to discuss kind of how this is going to maybe form. And I agree with Council Member McKim that, you know, the tougher part's gonna be kind of when we're at council. So I'm fully prepared, and thank you. Just want to give you an idea of how we're gonna proceed.
And these expanded use cases is really interesting. I'm looking forward to having you share that information with the entire council. I think they'll find it very, very
And
interesting.
these will hopefully be public facing in a short while. We'll see. But the jail dashboard and the assessor's dashboard, which I'm really, really excited about. So.
And can I ask a question that my decision is not predicated on, but you know, I've asked you guys before. Is there a roadmap to getting a better app, getting a better public facing GIS website than Elevate?
It's probably making our own, and it's not that hard. And with a technician, we could
Because I know
probably get something.
what you've delivered in sometimes when we ask you a question about tips or about trails or something, the product that you guys deliver is so much better than the Elevate product, honestly.
I guess the real thing is this isn't the appropriate venue or space to discuss
I know.
it. We want to bring in more vested stakeholders, but we've been having this conversation, and as people are seeing kind of what tools are fully developed right off the shelf and how easy they are to kind of utilize and maintain, this conversation is becoming way more frequent. And I think what we really need to do is just have that internal discussion and then kind of move forward, because we do have a partnership right now that hosts a lot of our data, but it's not that we can't make, you know, an app that functions better on the telephone through the current technology, but we want to have that conversation kind of more broadly with all the other stakeholders before, you know, we really kind of create any pseudo competitor kind of.
I know, this is, you know, every time I get the chance, I'm gonna.
Oh, trust me.
And just as an FYI, like Elevate does just host our data. It is all our data.
Yeah.
So that's there's as Tron said, there's conversations happening. So.
Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see we'll invite you to those conversations.
I just feel like that app has not been updated in years. I mean, it's the same app, almost identical. I never see an update come. I never see new functionality rolled out.
So for my limited conversation, that was from the acquisition, and they haven't really put any time and effort into a mobile app, and they're kind of leaning towards just pulling it up on your phone as it's hosted now, and just kind of working on more of a limited space of screen, you know.
Well, that's a
So-
valid approach,
Yeah, but that's as much as conversation we can have, because now since they were acquired by a larger company, you know, some of our direct contacts don't have the same influence that they used to have when it was a smaller group of folks. And so it's just something that we're continuing to discuss, and more we move forward with working with other departments, more and more they see kind of a way of doing things differently that really maximizes kind of their goals and workflows. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take us down.
No,
But
it's
It's a really interesting conversation.
Is there's a lot of people that have to come into this conversation before we really determine kind of that larger step. But this is moving in a direction where we can actually have that conversation, and we're not dependent on the outside services, which is, I think, crucial, because that's when it just becomes more and more costly to have a growing GIS division if all we're doing is reaching out for outside services, and we become kind of service junkies, you know, and we're kind of building out things that are more siloed for one particular job or function, where there could be, you know, a lot of efforts where some redundancy or overlap can occur. And if we can streamline that, we can maximize, you know, the time and efficiency of what we're doing. So.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely, Martin.
I would like for him to take a look at if any other counties, how they're working, and how we can compare to other counties.
We'll do, we'll grab about 3 or 4 donut hole counties and kind of maybe see how their office you know, compares to what we have. So yeah, we'll do that before the work session.
All right. Thank you all.
The marching order.
Ms. Kim,
And
what
I
would you like to
just
say?
want to say that once I send this information off to WIS, They normally give us like anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks,
Mhm.
depending on their workload. So I hope to have it back before the next PAC meeting, but I can't guarantee that.
That's exactly what we were anticipating. So,
Okay.
thank you.
And,
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
remember that the rules are supposed to be, it doesn't, doesn't seem to do very good following the rules. That we take all of these requests for new positions, put them all in one basket and decide for the next year's budget session, which of these new positions we can add. It's my feeling you don't want to wait until the next budget session, but I just want to throw that out there, that this is really the way it was supposed to work.
All right, thank you for that reminder. Let's move on here to item number 4. We have with us Ms. Angie Purdy, who is going to be talking to us about a request for a review and reclassification of the personnel administrator, as well as a request for a review of the payroll administrator. Ms. Purdy, what's going on here?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as a little background, when I first took this position in 2013, we had a human resources office department at that particular point in time. And our human resources, our employee services has been unstable, to describe how it has been set up in years past. And we have now recently actually been able to obtain a level of stability. And with that stability, we have had an opportunity to look at the true integration of the 2 different positions that comprise.
Surprise, yeah.
Yeah, totally different. Whole different meaning. Our employee services department, and after when our payroll administrator submitted his notice that he was going to be moving to a new department within county government, it gave me the impetus to think about how we could restructure this office and have it to be a more efficient office. It's currently situated or set up such that both the payroll administrator and the personnel administrator report to me. That is not the most efficient use of time. Given the nature of how these 2 positions actually interact with one another, there was a larger burden borne by the personnel administrator, who was picking up, duties and responsibilities that we didn't really know that were going to be there until we've had some time to experience this relationship. So I'm coming today asking that you consider passing this request for a review and category classification change to the personnel administrator position. I believe that the description as it's presently before you now more accurately reflects the duties and responsibilities that our administrator has experienced. And I've also included the payroll administrator position. And I don't anticipate a classification change, but I did make some changes to some of the reporting requirements and general job duties, because as I looked at it, there was some duplication within the job description. So that is why I'm here.
All right, thank you very much for the explanation. We do have our personnel administrator here. Do you have any further comments or insights on this topic?
I mean, I think Angie explained it very well, that's sort of we're looking to align the job description with the actual duties that I've been doing over the past several years. Yeah.
All right. I'll now turn it over to PAC for first round of questions or comments. Mr. McKim.
Back when we did have an HR professional, I don't remember whether it was HR generalist or HR specialist, I guess was, what was the classification of that?
Oh.
There was an HR director and an HR specialist. the HR specialist, when I moved into that role, and it was a PAT 3 at the time, so I would assume it would have been categorized similarly at the PAT C level.
But the HR director.
It was an EXE.
It was an
It was the
EXEA.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this was sort of an experiment to change the scope of the job duties, and it does look like the responsibilities, the current responsibilities of the personnel administrator are quite a lot larger than initially envisioned.
Ms. Hawk, do you have any comments or questions on this topic? All right, hearing none at this point, feel free to chime in, though. I'm gonna look to our council administrator. Do you have any questions or insight on this topic?
No, I do work with the personnel administrator as well as the payroll administrator closely during budget times with regards to the payroll grids and, anything with contracts, so that we ensure that we get everything into the system. So we kind of integrated that information into the job descriptions as well, because I believe that that's an important connection that we, collaboration that we need to ensure that we have moving forward.
And from where I sit, that certainly seems like a collaboration that's working well. So we want to definitely preserve that. Ms. Hawk, we hear you. Do you have any comments or questions at this point?
Yes, are we simply discussing the personnel administrator, or I'm trying to figure out, because I didn't realize this was going to be on the agenda until over the weekend. Because from what I understand, the auditor, and I was hoping the auditor would be there today to discuss this, because I don't want to speak on her behalf, but she had mentioned to me that she had it under consideration to take payroll back in under the auditor's office, where it had been forever and ever. And so I understand she's at a funeral right now, so I think that portion of it should be tabled until we can get her.
Ms. Hawk, we do have Ms. Gregory here that wishes to say something.
Yeah, I think I can help clarify just a little bit. I don't want to speak for the auditor, but I did have the opportunity to get a little bit of clarification. And I think maybe some things were misinterpreted. The auditor is certainly willing to take it back if that would be necessary, as I believe it's one of her statutory duties. However, she's willing versus want, I think, is what where there was a little confusion. She's not looking to add more duties unless it becomes necessary. So
Councilmember Kim.
Yeah, and I will say that I also, I'm not going to speak for the auditor, but I was just speaking to her while I was 2 minutes late because I was speaking to the auditor. She was kind enough to call me from the funeral, and basically what Ms. Gregory said is exactly what the auditor said to me, that she was willing but not seeking it. And the other thing she said is that what she thought was the most important thing is that the payroll administrator and the personnel administrator stay together. So those were the 2 points she made to me, but she definitely did not. I asked point blank if she was opposed to it, and she said no.
So I guess just go ahead, Ms. Hawk.
Okay,
You're muted, Ms. Hawk. We cannot hear you.
okay, now I've got it.
Yeah, you
Keeps
got it. Yeah.
moving. It's not been a good day. I was not in favor of taking payroll out of the auditor's office to begin with, because that is a part of her duties and part of what she's being paid for. And I think it's essential that it stay and go back to the auditor's office. And I've been saying that for some time. And remember that we will be having a different auditor at the next election coming up because she can no longer stay in that position. So that's my thoughts on it. And I haven't changed that over time. And so I would encourage the auditor to step up and be able to do that. But if that's not her choice, then I will go along with what everybody wants to do. I have no problem with making sure we pay the personnel administrator appropriately.
Well, Councilmember Hawk, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We always appreciate hearing them. And I guess my question is one of clarification. The item on our agenda today is simply a reclassification request.
Mhm.
We are not looking to reassign reporting lines or structure of that, right? Correct?
Correct. Not as a personnel administrator.
Right.
The payroll does have a change in reporting.
Would be reporting to the personnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Currently, they're reporting to me.
Right.
And I
Okay.
would just, can I just add
Please.
that those two positions work so closely together that I understand it being the auditors, under the auditor's duties, but that I think that they work so closely together that having that separation would probably be to the detriment of the efficiency of those positions.
Well, it appears to me that we have unanimous opinion that keeping those two together is important. All right. Does anybody have any further comments or questions before we entertain a motion?
If I could just
Please.
add, I just want to let people know that currently we work very well. The people in these positions work extremely well with the auditor's office, with the council office, the communications that are occurring. I think that it speaks well and highly of both the employee services department personnel, but also of our auditor and counselor's office personnel, because the ability to work together is so important, and they do it all very well.
Yeah, I have to say, as I come in and work out of this office on Fridays, I see that with my own eyes, and so I'm very supportive of this. All right, Mr. McKim.
I guess I just would make the comment also that Councilor Hawk mentioned that there will be a new auditor at some point in the near future. That will be, that we, as the council, we always entertain proposals for reorganizations for new elected officials. So if the new auditor wants to change up the structure, they can make that proposal, and we can certainly entertain it at that time to move it back to the auditor's office. So with that said,
Please, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I move that we forward the request for review and reclassification and of the personnel administrator and the request for review of the payroll administrator to WIS.
I'll second. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Any public comments? Seeing none, Ms. Shell, would you call the roll?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
No,
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
motion passed majority 2-1.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
And I think you probably all know the WIS process better than anybody else. So we'll endeavor to get that done.
Save your comments.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
it.
today. Thank you. This has been a long meeting, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Gregory, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the approval summary minutes. Are there any changes to these minutes? Hearing none, they are adopted and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay. I just need your signature, please.
Is that?
Thank you.
Thank you.